Alright, here's my setup right now. I have just pinned up a little black blanket up against the wall, and my camera is right there. It's on a tripod, and that wire is going down and it's hooked up to this umbrella light. And this is no biggie. If you don't have this, don't worry about it. I'm just using it because I have it and it makes things easy. But basically, it's almost at a 45-degree angle, more towards the center, more towards the camera than it is away from it. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put my camera on a timer for about 5 seconds. So when I push the button, it's going to wait 5 seconds and then take the picture. So I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to stare directly into the camera, and I'm going to lean my head back against this wall so my head doesn't move during the two shots. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to take one picture of just my face and then another picture of my hands over my face. And then maybe one more just in case. It's good to have like multiple type of shots just in case one's like a little bit better than the other one. Then you can go back and choose that one. So that's it. Let's go on the computer and mess them up. Alright, so we have both of our pictures here, and first off, I'm just going to make both of them black and white. So to do that, I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate. Now you can use Image Adjustments black and white if you wanted to, and this does have advantages. You can pick what one you like better, but in this circumstance, I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm just going to go to Image, Desaturate. Now, I'm going to actually unlock this layer. Just drag that little lock icon down to the bottom trash can and just drag it up. Because I kind of want that layer in front. It kind of just makes more sense to me. Next, I'm going to go through my blending modes here and just pick one that I think makes it look decent. And usually overlay or multiply are the ones that I usually pick, but not always. And I think overlay is probably what we're going to pick. What I'm going to do though, before I do that, I'm going to go back to normal. I'm going to go to auto contrast on both of these layers, because that kind of levels everything out and makes things look good. So now I'm going to go back and choose my blending mode. And now I can see that multiply is working better, at least for right now. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this bottom layer by dragging it to that new page icon, and I'm going to make this multiply. So basically we're just going to make this layer darker. So multiply. Now I like the look of that already. You might want to experiment, try different ones. I'm going to go with that, delete this one completely, just get rid of it. So we're only multiplying it twice to make it darker. And then I'm going to create a layer mask on the second multiply because I don't want it too dark in certain areas. So I'm just going to paint over the parts where I don't want it very, very dark. Like my eyes, for example, that's kind of important. I'll maybe even do it on this one too. Maybe not if it doesn't look too good. That kind of looks cheesy. I don't know. I'll do it. I'll just lower the opacity to like 30% and then do it, because then I'm not doing it too much. So that's good. Alright, so we got that part. We just kind of faded in the parts that we wanted. We didn't want to get too dark. And I think, you know what, I might even brighten up. Actually, I was thinking that I could brighten up the this right side here. Just a little bit, just like that. There's before and after. You can leave it dark if you want it really dark, but I don't like things too dark. I just like it, dark. So that's good. Now we can just flatten all those together since I'm satisfied with that. So let's just right click and click merge layers. And you got to remember, you can't click the layer mask and you can't click the actual picture. When you're clicking, you have to click in an empty spot. You basically have to click the text where it literally says layer 1. You have to click that text or somewhere to the right of it and then click merge layers. So there we go, we got that. That looks pretty cool. Now, since this is on multiply and this is so bright, what I'm going to do is just try burning in the midtones back in. So let's just try that and see if that works. Yep, there you go. That adds a little bit more depth to the hands, so it looks more like 3D. And maybe even dodge it up a little bit more even. Just the midtones, just bringing back the midtones. Alright, that's good. Maybe get the eyes a little bit more. Make those stand out like that. And dodge the highlights on the eyes. On both of them. And then I'm going to burn just the outside of the eye. So I'm going to make my brush size really small. And I'm just going to burn in the... Whoops, I'm still on dodge. So I need to go over here and click burn. And now I'm going to burn the... I'm going to try burning the shadows. Make my brush really small. Whoops. I'll do midtones actually. There we go. See, that adds more depth to the eyes. Lower that even lower. You don't want it too strong. Oh yeah, it's already looking really good. Maybe even go to shadows and just lower it just the slightest bit, just to really make it more contrasty. See, now that is freaky. Alright, so enough about the eyes already. Now what I'm going to do is I can see that there's hair coming over my fingers here, and I don't really want that at all. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer, and well, that made it look... I think that even made it look better, the whole entire picture. I might leave it at that later, but first I'm going to change this duplicate layer to normal. Now I can see that the hair is not blocking my fingers, because in this one it's on multiply, and that means I can see through the layer kind of. So I'm just going to turn that off for a second and just get my layer mask out, and then I'm going to just press Control I on the layer mask just to get rid of it temporarily, and then I'm going to grab a white brush and I'm just going to draw back in my finger, and you'll see that now I'm just making just the top part non-see-throughable. You can even try doing the entire hand that way and just experiment and see if it looks good. I'm going to try doing that right now actually. I think it looks better without it. So there's that right there. That's kind of too bright. Looks like I have like nail polish on. I don't want them too bright. So I think that's good. Let's zoom in just really quick, see what it's doing. We'll lower the opacity to about 30. That's good. They can still come in just a little bit. I just don't want it to be so dominant that you can't even see the fingers. Alright, that's good enough, I guess. And now what I can do just to make those not look so shiny is I can just go in with my burn tool and burn the midtones back in. Just like that. Or I could even burn in the highlights back in, but that usually kind of makes it look cheesy. So there's that. Now what I'm going to do, so there's the before and after. So now I'm going to flatten these up, merge them back together. And now I got to go back to my overlay mode, or actually it was multiply. But usually, sometimes overlay might work. You just have to adjust the curves or the levels. So, but in this circumstance, you can see there's just too much contrast. It's not going to work. So I'm going to go back to multiply and just use that for now. Oh, whoops. I actually did not want to do that. Alright, so we have this now. So now what I'm going to do is just slightly maybe try to add some more depth into the fingers if I can. And if I can't, then I'm just going to forget about it. So what I'm going to do is grab the burn tool, and I'm going to select my shadows up here, and I'm going to set the exposure to about 20. Okay, maybe about 50. And then I'm just going to select my layer down here and just burn in some more shadows just to give it a little bit more depth. And again, this is always somewhat of an experimental process. I mean, you don't want to go too much to make it to the point where it looks too cheesy. And you don't want to do too little either to where it's not dramatic at all. So, okay, yeah. You can see that this is making a nice difference. Just a little bit more just to get in those crevices. And I think that's looking good. Alright. So let's look at the before and after out of all those. So here's before and here's after. We just added just a little bit more dimension to the picture, that's all. So I'm just gonna grab my I'm actually gonna grab my pen tool, and I'm just gonna make a selection around my fingertips, and then I'm gonna delete my head above here because I think that looks I think it looks better without the head and it's just the fingertips. So let's zoom in here and start doing this. Right, now I'm just gonna keep on making that box. Go back to the original point. I have long fingernails actually. I need to cut my fingernails. Alright, so we made the path. We close the path. Now we're gonna right click inside of it and click make selection. And we can feather it by 0.3, that's fine. And then we are just going to press Control backspace. Or actually, nope, I did it wrong. I actually have to select the inverse of this. So I'm going to right click on it and click select inverse. Because I had this checked when I was making the selection, and what I should have had was this. Because when I have this selected, it's going to select everything but what I just selected. But if I have this one checked, I'm going to make the selection and it's going to be what I select. So I had to inverse the selection there just to fix that. So now I'm going to click Control Backspace, and there we go. Now what is that? There we go. I had to do it on this layer mask too, just to fine tune that layer mask. I pushed Control Backspace. And now I'm just going to deselect this, and now it looks like that, even cooler. I think I just want to make the eyes a little bit more punchy. So I'm just going to grab my dodge tool, and I'm going to brighten up the highlights. Just one click, just like that. And then one click right there. And then I'm going to burn the shadows. And I'm going to make, let's see if it works at 65%. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And I'm thinking this eye needs it one more time with the dodge tool. Maybe not. I think it looks good right there. Yeah. Okay, now let's just flatten let's flatten everything up. So layer flatten image. We got our picture now, it's done. So now I'm just gonna burn out my t-shirt and my neck. I'm just gonna fade out the t-shirt. Go back to my midtones here. There we go. Just burning those midtones over and over and over again. And actually I can actually burn the shadows too. I just gotta lower it quite a bit. And there we go. Just get rid of that little area. Alrighty, so now we're gonna add a texture to this picture. Let's actually fix the canvas size first. Let's go to image canvas size and just make it a little bit bigger. I'm gonna say 4,000 by 5,000. Whoops. Alright, click OK, made it bigger. Now we can recrop this thing to something like this. Image crop. There, now that looks cooler. Alright, so now I'm just going to grab a texture from DeviantArt, and this particular one that I'm using is by, let's go take a look at it. It's texture stock 160 by Redwolf 518 stock. So let's download this and bring it in Photoshop. I'm just going to drag and drop the picture there. And now what I want to do is I want to make, first of all, I'm going to switch this to overlay just so I can see it really quick. And now that looks cool, just like that. That looks pretty awesome. But I'm actually not going to do that. What I want to do is have the dark red areas cover my face, and then have the lighter areas cover the black negative space right here. So I think that's pretty much the best I could do. I mean, yeah, I think it's fine how it was. Just like that right there. So I'm going to push enter to put that in there. Now I'm going to put the opacity back to 100% so I can see what I'm doing, and then change the blending mode to screen. Now look at that, that's cool. So I'm going to desaturate this image black and white. So now we're just going to go through here until we find one that's suitable for what we're trying to do. Maximum black is looking pretty good. This lighter is also looking good, but it's only going to look good if we make it darker. Let's try lighter, and let's just make this really, really dark. Going to brightness and contrast. Let's lower the brightness, and maybe even lower the contrast. Get that really dark. Alright, now also what I could do is I could duplicate this layer. If it's getting too bright at the bottom here, I could duplicate it and make it multiply. And then make it so that only the multiplied area is affecting the bottom area. So I would just do that, and that would even it out a little bit more. So, I don't know, you might not want to do that, you might want to do it, it's up to you. I just kind of like it more even. And just get rid of those bright, really bright areas. Just like that. Alright, so then I would flatten those two layers and then go back to screen or lighten. You can go back between the two. I'm thinking screen is the actually lighten's good. And then I would just, you know, maybe mask out the area in front of my face. See how that looks? Because then it looks more like I'm coming out of the picture and the texture is not overlaid on my face and it's just in the background. I think that looks good like that. And then you can see the texture is just kind of coming over my hands, which looks really, really cool. So there it is. There's the finished piece. So that is how you make Insomnia.